everybody, it's Tim Hinton, the beast of the marching arts. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Marching Roundtable podcast. I'm here with my boyfriend, Steve Blanchard. Steve, say hi.
Hello, everybody. Good. Happy to be here.
So we are here to talk about a brand new project we've been working on for most of this year. We have a new bed and breakfast opened in Tampa, Florida. We're going to talk all about that. And listen, everybody, I want to first off say thank you so much. You've been a supporter of all the work that myself and everyone else that's a part of our team at Marching Arts Education, at the Marching Roundtable podcast. I appreciate, sorry, I'm a little bit hoarse. Everybody, I lost my voice a few days ago. I'm better now. But I want to say thank you for all the support you've given over the years. So many of you have come on as guests to share your expertise, to share your knowledge about everything in the world of marching and music, visual, the whole thing. So appreciative of that. And so I'm appreciative now of all the support that people are giving to this new project. Don't worry, I'm still going to be writing band shows, writing music, arranging music, creating visual design. Still going to be doing podcasts and webinars as we always have. Although you might notice there's a little bit less of it because I have this new project. So Steve, when we've known each other a long time, we reconnected and sort of started dating the last 2.5, 3 years. You came to me, surprised me one day and said you had this idea of having a bed and breakfast. Where did that come from?
I did. Well, a long time ago, I remember going on a vacation to New Orleans, and I stayed in my first ever bed and breakfast and absolutely loved it. It was intimate, it was cool, it was private, it was a completely different experience than I've ever had whenever I traveled before. Totally not the hotel experience. And I thought, from that day, wow, this is something I could really do. This was like 20 years ago or something.
Wow.
So after that, every time I would travel, bed and breakfast or something that I would always look forward to stay in if it was a possibility. And every time I would experience one or see one, or even if I didn't stay there, I kept thinking, wow, that is totally something that I could do.
Right. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the unique theme of that. If you're watching the video version of this, we're sitting in the library here at the Phantom History House, which is the name of our bed and breakfast. You can find out more about it, see pictures, take video tours of the different rooms at phantomhistoryhouse.com. So you talked about bed and breakfast. People may not know what that is. A lot of people have stayed in an Airbnb where you are in a room of someone's house, or you're renting someone's apartment or their house out for some time. What's different about a bed and breakfast?
Bed and breakfast is you're more involved with the people that live here. I mean, we live in this house. We live in Phantom History House. This is where our home is. And our guests are able to, of course, they rent a room upstairs. We have 4 rooms available, but they're also able to interact with us. They can come down into this library space. They can hang out. They can tell stories. They can go out on the back of the lanai if they want, enjoy the Florida weather. And of course, in the morning, they can have breakfast. We do a continental breakfast, kind of like a self-serve kind of thing. But the big difference is that we're here with you and you can interact with us as much or as little as you want.
Right. So if you've ever wanted to sort of sit down with me and talk about drum corps or marching band stuff, of course, I will be here. If you want to talk about paranormal stuff, ghost stories, haunted buildings and history, that's what Steve's into. And of course, that's what the theme is here. We're sitting in the library, as I mentioned. I've always had a fish tank my whole life. Right behind us is my brand new, super exciting 60-gallon tank. We're still adding fish to it, but that's one of the features here of the library space. And let's talk about the theming of the house. I just mentioned paranormal activity, ghost stories, history. Talk about what you have a podcast called Phantom History. Let's talk about that.
I do. I started Phantom History in 2018. It is not my full-time job. It is a side job that I did because I was actually working as a ghost tour guide for a while. Backtracking on that, I've always loved history. I thought it was fascinating. I came this close to becoming a history teacher when I went to college. Shifted my career towards journalism and did that for a long time, and now I work in public relations. But my love of history has always been an underlier. I've always loved it. Whenever I travel anywhere, I want to learn about the history. And I found, along with the bed and breakfast experience, that if you take a local ghost tour of wherever you're visiting, it's a really, really cool way to get to learn the history of the location and some of the local lore that's around there as well. Whether you believe in spirits or not, it's still fascinating because all of those stories tie into a historical context, which I love, which inspired the podcast, which is why it's called Phantom History, because we talk about the history of a certain location and then talk about the alleged paranormal encounters that people have had there. And I get it directly from the source. I actually interview people and put them into the narrative.
So as we purchased this home and then sort of have been completely renovating it, to add all these features in the guest rooms upstairs. That's been the way we've done this. It's been really fun. So there's sort of a creepy Victorian haunted house kind of feel to what we're doing. It's been a lot of fun to actually find some old antiques, Victorian-style furnishings and art and mirrors and the whole thing. So hopefully when they come here, they feel like they're stepping into a completely different kind of place.
Well, that's one of the goals of what we want to do here is, whenever you walk into our front door, we want you to leave the world behind. Like in our library, there's not even a television. It's all about interacting with the people that are here, grabbing a book, sharing a story. Of course, there are TVs in your room if you want to go watch Netflix or whatever you want to do. We're certainly not removing you from current times and the technology that it offers. The whole house is Wi-Fi capable. But what I envision this becoming is a place where people can come and chill out and talk, regardless of their background, political affiliation, all that stuff. It does not matter. Leave it at the door. Come in, let's talk history, let's talk paranormal stuff, let's talk marching roundtable stuff. Let's just be people who get along and chat. It's a great way for us to meet interesting people from different walks of life and to, make a great circle of friends.
Right. So this is my favorite thing about this is we all sort of need to get away. So if you're ever wanting to just sort of get away for a week, for a weekend, for a night, or if you're coming to Florida, you're coming to the Tampa Bay area, we are on the west side of Tampa, sort of in between downtown and sort of the beach.
Mm-hmm.
So you're sort of close to where all of that stuff is. About 25, 30 minutes to Busch Gardens if you're a theme park guy like I am. There's lots to do here, but it's my main excitement for it is that it's a place to get away. Everybody's welcome. You're welcome to come here, be yourself, whoever you are, whatever your life is like. You're welcome here, and it's a place to sort of turn off the world, enjoy this sort of creepy paranormal thing if you want to enjoy that side of it, but mostly just get away. The other thing I love about it, Steve, is we have 4 guest rooms. We'll talk about those in a minute, but you could have a whole group of up to 8 people. There's 3 queen beds and 1 is a king bed. So there's enough accommodations for 8 people or 4 rooms. If that's 4 people, 8 people, whatever it is. You can rent out the whole house, book all the rooms, and then the entire space is yours. So I could see a drum corps staff wanting to have their getaway where they often get away for like 3 or 4 days.
Right.
They'll get together. You could have this whole space with all the different rooms, the theming, that you could use for that getaway, or if you just want to get away with some friends, or if you just want to have a nice night away or a weekend away. If you're coming to Tampa for a convention, we'd love to have you stay here. There's lots of ways that you or a group of people could enjoy the space.
You're right. And one of the really unique things about where the house is located is we are close to everything, but we're also far removed. We're on a dead-end street, so there's not a lot of traffic. It's incredibly quiet. But if you want to go to a horse race, for example, Tampa Bay Towns is literally right around the corner.
Tampa Bay Downs.
Yeah.
It's the horse track. It's
exactly.
right, or literally, basically, if you go out, there's a nature preserve behind us, so it's very quiet and private here. If you went through that, you'd end up at the horse track.
Absolutely. And, we're only, 10 miles from the beaches of Dunedin and Honeymoon Island and that historic district. We're about 20 minutes from Ybor City in downtown Tampa. So where we are is a great location in order to connect to all of Tampa Bay, but it's also a great way to kind of escape all the hustle and bustle as well and kind of relax and chill out, which is why I really enjoy living here. And I think a lot of our guests will enjoy that as well.
Yeah, it's really, really quiet. As we're sitting right now, and this is our living room, main room area we're calling the library, which has library books everywhere. Across the street, we don't see a house. There's a lake. There's no house on this side. There's no house behind us. There's a giant wooded area before the next house here. So when you come into our space, it feels very, very private, very secluded, which I love, sort of turning off the world, getting away from it all. So we hope that you'll consider that as a getaway. Like I said, everybody's welcome. You turn off all of that stuff and you come here and you can enjoy your time. There are 4 rooms.
There are 4 rooms, all upstairs.
And they're themed to the paranormal thing, like the Phantom History podcast. Why don't you talk about what the rooms are?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about the paranormal world is there's just so many things you can talk about and so many things you can discuss. So we actually had quite the challenge trying to figure out what these themes were going to be for the rooms. And I think one of the earliest concepts is our Ouija board room, which I absolutely love. It's one of the largest rooms that we have upstairs. And if you're familiar with the Ouija board or spirit board, it's what you can allegedly use to conduct conversations with folks from the other side. And again,
this is a coaster. It's not a real planchette, but it looks like the thing you'd use when you're using it.
Yes, and the things like that are found throughout the house. And divination is a constant conversation in the paranormal world. How do you contact somebody who has passed on or is on the other side? Does it work? Does it not work? It depends on who you ask and what you read. But we thought that that was such a cool concept that we decided to create an entire room that kind of envelops you in that Ouija board vibe.
And it's our biggest room.
It is.
Has the queen bed. It has a lot of space, and it is one of the rooms that is on the back. There's a deck upstairs that opens. There's a sliding glass door that opens onto a deck looking out over the backyard and the nature area. So that's one of the perks of that room too.
Yeah, and it's a king bed, not a queen bed. It's a king bed in that room.
Did I not say king?
You said queen, but
I'm
it's
sorry,
king.
everybody.
It's okay.
It's our king bed.
It's all on the website, so you can read it for yourself. And also, one thing to note is upstairs, each of the 4 rooms has its own bathroom, so they're all en-suite bathrooms. So you don't have to share a bathroom with the rest of the house. It's your space to go and escape. And immediately in front of that, in the front of the house, and in front of the Ouija room, we have what we call our portrait room. Which was a concept that kind of came out of left field. I don't even know how really know. I know that was kind of your idea.
Well, I'll tell you what it was when we started looking for stuff for the house, one of the first thing we ever bought was this sort of creepy picture that we found that was this, we knew that we had this paranormally themed space we were trying to create and theme. We found this very, very old photograph of this elderly couple whose names actually are Luigi and Verbena?
Sylvania.
Sylvania. Okay. Sylvina. Anyway, you can see that. But when we saw the picture, it looked like there was some sort of ghostly apparition behind them. So we bought it. And that was the first emphasis. And then we started realizing, let's find all of these old photographs, a lot of them sort of a little bit creepy, a little bit unnerving, but they sort of help to create the sense of place. And I think that got us excited about creating a whole room. Our upstairs portrait room has an entire wall of portraits.
And people may wonder, well, what's paranormal about that? Well, a lot of people have probably heard that there are some customs that believe or believed that if you got your photograph taken, that an essence of your soul went along with it. So there were some cultures that were actually afraid of getting their picture taken. So it's kind of an interesting experience when you're laying in that room and you see this wall of people and eyeballs
looking at you
while you're enjoying your rest. So it could be comfortable, it could be eerie, but comfortable and creepy is what we always want to go for here.
One of the rooms was going to be the library room.
Yes.
We originally had a room, but that ended up being we loved that idea so much that we decided that was our main space downstairs. So like I said, where we're sitting, there's a library, there's books everywhere, sort of interesting, creepy things too.
And what's cool though is that we're both readers. We both really like to read. So we had a lot of these books are books we already had in our collection. Of course, we have found some specifically themed to what we wanted the house to be. But it was really rewarding to be able to see these books come out and land somewhere. And of course, guests are welcome to read them while you're here. We encourage that. We have everything from Stephen King and Thomas Harris, who wrote the Hannibal Lecter series, to books about Disney or Harry Potter. So it's a little bit of everything in between for anybody who wants to settle in for a little bit.
By the way, if you have any hardcover books, especially horror or creepy stories, whatever, we would love to have them in our library. So you can reach out to me. You know how to reach me at the Marching Roundtable, and we'd love for you to send those to us. I'd even pay for postage. Did I say that? But anyway, we'd love to have some of those. And your book could be part of our collection, hardcovers. So then the cemetery room is it's a weird idea, but we've had that idea from the beginning too. Sleeping in a graveyard kind of thing.
One of the first things we came up to, whenever you think ghost stories, you think of a cemetery or a graveyard. And do you know the difference between a cemetery and a graveyard?
Yes, because you taught me. A graveyard is attached to a church.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because it's literally part of the yard.
Right, so when you see like a little old country church, whatever, and there are graves next to it, that's a graveyard. A cemetery is its own space,
right,
where people are buried.
Not necessarily connected to a church or religious
I've learned that. I also learned to spell cemetery correctly because for some reason I really want to put an A in it. But I have learned not to do that, certainly. So the cemetery room is exciting because Orlando artist Steve Roberts, who actually is the tattoo artist that did all of the tattoos I have on my right arm and shoulder, he came and painted a mural that you can see. Go to phantomhistory.com. You can see some pictures of the mural. It's much more amazing in person, but it is sort of like you're laying in a graveyard.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I was curious at how this would turn out because we had talked about how to theme this room and how to make it come together. But Steve has such an eye for what we wanted to do, and he built such an amazing concept around just paint that it actually feels like you're in a eerie graveyard. complete with fog. I mean, how he did it, I have no idea, but it's very, very
It's pretty
incredible.
cool.
And it has its own unique feel, and of course, it also has its own restroom as well connected.
Yeah, everybody has their own private bathroom.
Yeah, and the cemetery room is the only room that has a tub.
If you're like me, I love to soak in the tub. I admit it. Everybody, actually, when we were building our own space for this house, that was the first thing. Is like, I have to have a bathtub, so we put one in.
Yes.
But anyway, so if you're a bathtub kind of guy like me, and maybe you want to have the thrill of sleeping in a cemetery type environment, I think you'll find it. It's very clever. There's a lot of surprises in every room. We're not telling you all the details, but there are things that you don't expect that we're not even putting on the website, so that when you come here to stay and you go into your room, you'll have some surprises. The fourth room is the smallest of our 4 rooms. It's the castle room, and we thought this was going to be the hardest one to do, but it ended up being one of our favorites.
Yeah, it came together really well, and the concept. A lot of times you hear, if you keep it simple, it makes more sense. It's not convoluted. You walk in and you feel like you're walking into the bedchamber of a castle. The big catch in this room, of course, is not only the 4-poster queen-size bed, but it is the number of candles that await you in the room. Of course, they're all remote controlled. Everything is battery operated. We don't want anybody to burn down our house, but we do want you to be able to go in there, sleep by candlelight, hang out by candlelight. Just it sets the mood for the entire room. And this one has a bathroom as well, which has a unique shower that is actually looks like stonework that you'd find in a castle.
Yeah, we had so much fun deciding, sort of designing the rooms, the colors. Steve, as it turns out, is really great at picking out tile.
Who knew?
Who knew? So he was really the one that, when we're in the store, found all these great, really interesting tiles that we're using. So it's been a fun collaboration between us. It's been exhausting. You can hear my voice. I'm a little bit worn out from the whole adventure. Really, I started moving from Orlando about 6 or 7 months ago. We bought the house in the middle of September. We've been doing this massive renovation, and here we are right at the end of the year in 2022, and we're open for business. We have our license, and we would love for you to come stay. So if you know anybody that's traveling to Tampa, the Tampa Bay area, or if you just want to get away, jump on a plane and come down for a week, come down for a long weekend. By the way, because we're paranormally themed, there are special events that are going to be happening. We have some special people that are going to be here.
Yes, and again, this goes along with what we were talking about, kind of the vein of the whole Ouija board idea, is, a big part of the paranormal world is, tarot cards and mediums and psychics. We have actually been in touch with a few. We've actually had one to the house already, who are going to make themselves available to our guests. So if you want to get a tarot card read, or if you want to get a psychic reading, get a glimpse of what could be your future, what is in your past, just to kind of ask some questions. We will have some of our friends who work in that realm available to do that. If you give us a heads up, we can make sure that they're in the house and available for you.
So what we hope you're getting from this is, one, this is what I'm excited about. This is our new project. We're doing it together as a couple, and we're very excited about having you come share our space and have this experience. The thing I hope that you're hearing from this is, if you're going to go spend a weekend somewhere, you want to get away, you want a place that's nice and quiet and private, but also just not your typical weekend away, right? It's like, it's a different kind of thing. And whenever we've told anybody about this idea of this sort of haunted, paranormally themed sort of bed and breakfast, everybody always loves the idea.
Everybody loves the idea. And one thing I've learned over the years during the podcast and as my work as a tour guide is, whenever you mention a ghost story to somebody, inevitably somebody in the group is going to say, I have a story that I want to share with you. I would give tours in the historic district of Tampa called Ybor City. And after every tour, I would hang out after the tour closed, and 2 or 3 people would chat with me for like an additional 45 minutes because they had an experience they wanted to share. So that just made me realize that, okay, a lot of people are interested in this. And again, we're not pushing one thing over the other, whether you believe in it or not. The idea of a spirit world and spirit realm and being able to reach out to them is just fascinating to a lot of people. And, I'm a huge Halloween fan, as you know, and I actually get to live Halloween all year round now. So I'm super excited about that.
Right. So if you are somebody that has a paranormal experience, or you want to tell your own ghost story, or you just love hearing ghost stories, you can come spend some time talking to Steve about that. Like I said, if you want to talk to me about marching stuff or drum corps or whatever, of course, I'll be here to talk about that. You can talk to Steve about bodybuilding. Clearly, that's something that he's into. Both of us are fitness guys, so we can talk about anything you want. We just love the idea of you coming to visit, sharing our space. We'll give you this great, interestingly themed room to stay in. Breakfast the next morning. So anyway, just go to phantomhistoryhouse.com and you can see pictures, see little video tours. By the way, if you're watching this, you've made it all the way to now. There is a discount code for Marching Roundtable listeners. So if you put in MRT for Marching Roundtable, MRT will give you 10% off your booking if you book. So hopefully sometime in the next, say, 6 months to a year. Hope that you will, if you think you're coming down, if you're coming down to judge a Winter Guard show or a band show, you're coming to see Drum Corps, although they're not coming all the way down here this year. But if you're coming at all to this space, to this part of the world, we hope that you'll consider staying here.
Yeah, and if you're local and you live in the state of Florida, and like you said, just want to get away, do something a little bit different, come be our guest, and you'll leave as our friend. We want everybody to feel comfortable here. So hopefully we'll see some of you very soon.
Thanks for listening to all of this. Of course, if you have ideas for podcasts, for webinars, people you want to have as guests that you'd like to hear from, topics you want me to cover, as always, please contact me at the Marching Roundtable website. I'd love to hear about that. If you have other questions about the bed and breakfast, you can contact me or Steve at the Phantom History website, phantomhistoryhouse.com. Thanks for listening, Steve. Thanks for this project, for doing this with me. It's a fun thing we're doing together as a couple, and we hope that you'll come join us and enjoy staying here.
Well, thanks for diving in with me. This is going to be quite the ride, quite the experience, and we're both really excited.